Let's kick things off here, guys, with the first game on Saturday. That is going to be the Indianapolis Colts and the Buffalo Bills. That is 10 o'clock Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern time. We are sitting with a spread of 6.5 right now across the board. DraftKings, FanDuel, PointsBet, BetMGM, all of those 6.5, a total of 51 across the board outside of BetMGM, where they have a hook on it at 51.5. As we look at this game, of course, the big news as we head in, is there any injuries that we're going to be watching? On the Colts side of things, DeForest Buckner back practicing. That's good for them. Rock Ya-Sin, though, starting corner, not practicing for the Colts as of Thursday. So that is a bit concerning, starting cornerback for this team that is going to be facing, of course, one of the best passing attacks in all of the NFL in the Buffalo Bills. On the Bills side of things, does not look good for Cole Beasley. He has now not practiced all the way into Thursday. There is some concern with Steph Diggs as well. However, Brett, if you follow Brett on Twitter, which you should again, I told him, he said he's going to try to tweet at least 5 times a week now. He's got 1 in the book here on Thursday, so he's only got 4 more through the end of the week. Did retweet a video in which showed Steph Diggs kind of breaking it down out there on the field. There was a little Bills dance party that was going on, and Steph Diggs seemed to be part of that. So it didn't look like he was incredibly injured, at least with his dance moves anyway. So I would say likely we see Diggs, not likely that we see Beasley. So let's start.
By the way, Beasley returned to practice today.
He did get back out there.
Yes.
Well, that is very, very good for that is very, very good for this Bills team then, because that was like most of the beat writers I was looking at were saying they did not expect him to play this week. So that is very, very good news. And of course they got John Brown back last week as well. So even if Beasley's not able to go, it's not one of those scenarios where it's all doom and gloom. John Brown is back out there, and Gabriel Davis has emerged for this team as well. So Brett, we'll start with you as we do every single time whenever we talk about the Bills. So let's take this from the angle of the Bills. If people are looking to bet on the Bills in this game, we are looking at a 6.5 point spread. What is the likeliest path to victory for this Bills team that also includes winning by a touchdown? Because that's what you're going to need to cover the 6.5 that we're sitting on right now.
Well, the likeliest path is having all these receivers, because everything really starts with this passing game. Usually when we're talking about players who move betting lines, we're talking about quarterbacks and maybe like a handful of edge rushers in the league. But I mean, if the Bills don't have Beasley and Diggs and some of these guys, there's definitely value in this Colts line if those guys don't play. But it does look like those, Beasley and Diggs are trending towards playing. And I fully expect all of them to play if they're ready to go. So, I mean, that to me is the path. If all these guys are healthy, if they have the full group of receivers in time for the playoffs, that's huge. When you add John Brown, I mean, that's such a dangerous passing arsenal here. I would say I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. I think this will get back to 7 when more money starts coming in. So, I mean, I think right now you got to pay juice on the 6.5 for the Colts. So it doesn't look like it's headed to 7 yet. But I think as we get closer to Saturday, that's a possibility. So, I mean, I'm thinking if you want to bet the Bills, I would do it now before it gets back to 7. Obviously, the key number is 7. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, Brad, I'll ask you kind of the same question here. So the one thing that the Bills have been able to do, and I understand that the Colts pass defense, if you look at the advanced metrics, it rates pretty well. We're looking at a defense here that is, according to PFF, that is 8th overall defense. Their pass defense is sitting at 6th overall, according to Pro Football Focus, 8th overall DVOA pass defense. And if you kind of look at how they've been functioning all year long, has been kind of a bend but don't break defense. That said, we have seen this defense give up some points. We have seen this defense give up some yards in various games throughout the course of the year, and we know that the strength of this Bills team is that pass offense here. So do you agree with Brett that like the likeliest path to victory here for the Bills that also covers the 6.5 as we see the line sitting right now would just be essentially this pass offense just dominates what could be, one of the better pass defenses that they played.
Yes, I think the Bills do put up their points. I think they've just got stronger throughout the year. That you look at any metric, the Bills are top 5 offense in pretty much any metric you look at. As Indy, the stats you say they're good, but I don't think they're difference maker good. They've had a relatively easy schedule. And as you say, whenever they've stepped up competition, that I think they've struggled. And one stat I found quite interesting is the Colts had the 4th best QBR allowed in the NFL when they got to the quarterback within 2.5 seconds. But if they didn't get there in 2.5 seconds, they were 29th in the NFL in QBR allowed. And for the Bills, so what does that mean for the Bills? Well, Josh Allen ranks second in the league in passing yards and QBR when holding on to the ball for more than 2.5 seconds. So in other words, he likes to stand in there in the pocket. He trusts his offensive line, which is a top 5 unit by pass block win rate. So I think he's going to stand back there. He's got all 4. He's probably got like 5 good receivers with McKenzie and Davis as well as Beasley, Diggs, and Brown. And I think he's gonna carve them up. Essentially, is what I think is going to happen. And then it's a case of can Phillip Rivers keep up? And it's going to be cold in Buffalo. The Bills' defense has been getting a lot better since we saw them early in the season when they had injuries in the secondary at linebacker. They've been a top 10 unit over the second half of the season, and they've been a good unit for a few years now under McDermott. So do I think Phillip Rivers chasing the game is what the Colts want? No, I don't. So one last thing before I'll give it back to you is the best matchup edge the Colts have is in the run game. They've got a top 10 run offense, and the Bills' weakness is run defense. But I don't know how long you can stick with that while on the other side you've probably got Josh Allen slicing and dicing. So I think at some point you're forced out of that run game, and then you start to get in a bit of trouble, I think.
Brett, let's make a case for the Colts here. If we have some people that are watching this that want to, or listening to this, that want to be on the Colts in this game. And especially, let's say it does make it to 7, like you said. One of the things we've seen is late action on these lines whenever injury news is confirmed. Even when people are reading the tea leaves, a lot of the line movement doesn't come until everything is officially official. So let's just say that this thing is still sitting at 6.5 because there is that question mark around Cole Beasley. There is that question mark around Steph Diggs. And then we're going to be here on, either late Friday and we get a Schefter bomb, or on Saturday morning and we find out, okay, both of these guys are good to go. This thing moves, let's say, to the 7. Let's make a case here for the Colts. And I think first and foremost would be, would this be, it's been a while since Josh Allen's had a bad game, right? And maybe he's just not that guy anymore. Maybe he's just not that player that makes the boneheaded throws, though. That being said, he does rank pretty high on PFF's turnover-worthy throw percentage, actually. He's kind of up there in that metric, if you believe in that metric, if you believe in that being, something that we're gonna look into. So, maybe Josh Allen has a bad game. Maybe we're looking at a scenario where the Colts do just run wild with Jonathan Taylor, who has been one of the best, if not the best, rookie running back in the league this year. So let's make a case for the Colts here. If we're at the end of the game on Saturday and this is only a field goal game or the Colts win outright, how did that happen?
It happened maybe because the Colts are better than we think, and the Bills, I think the problem with the Bills, especially in the betting market right now, is that all the value is sucked out of this team. Everybody is wanting to bet the flashy offense. They've ripped off a bunch of wins in a row in dominating fashion. They were the best team against the spread this year. Everybody wants to bet on the Bills, and this number might be inflated. So I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we get a 3-point game with the Colts, because maybe the Colts are only 3, 4, 5 points worse than the Bills in on the road like this. The other question is, how much is home field being built into this line? I feel like this one is impacted a little bit more in the market just because it's the first time all year Bills have had fans. in attendance. There's going to be weather issues. We're talking about a quarterback in Phillip Rivers who's aging. He's going to be in cold weather. This is a guy who has played in optimal conditions in California most of his career. He played in a dome in Indy this year. How will he be impacted? But this is also a quarterback who has been through it all. I mean, the guy has been in the league for a long time. He's not going to get rattled by a limited capacity stadium in the playoffs. So I think for me, just looking at this number, it might be inflated just because of how well the Bills have played lately. The recency bias here, and you've got a lot of casual fans coming in and betting on the Bills, and that might force this number up. I do think, though, a lot of smart people are going to be keeping it at 6.5, 7, and buying the resistance if it does get to like a 7, and keeping this around 6.5, because it does feel like this number, if it gets to 7, is too high for the Bills.
All right, Brad. So let's talk about the total here at 51.5 as it seems right now. Like I said, the only total number that I actually keep in as far as like, quote unquote key number is 51 these days. That is like the only one that I actually do pay a decent amount of attention to. A lot of combinations to get to 51. And again, we've gotten to a point where the average game, sits around 50 these days. And so with 51 being kind of one of the key numbers as far as the total. So I don't know if you have a lean one way or the other, but make a case for either the over or the under in this game.
So I have bet the first quarter and the first half over here. And that's basically on the strength of the scripts from both teams. So I've got the Colts with the second best EPA per pass play in the entire NFL in scripted plays. And then the Bills down there at 5th. So I bet first quarter over 10. You can get around evens. And then I bet first half over 24.5. I've got minus 105 on that. Is about where I would stop as well. The full game, I'm a little bit more worried. So I do think the Bills will move the ball, and I wouldn't put you off a Bills team total. But I'm a bit worried about the Colts, as I say, when the script runs out and the Bills pass rush is just teeing off, because we know the Colts can be down to their 3rd left tackle. And the Bills pass rush is sneaky good, actually. It's probably one of the most underrated units in this game. It's top 5 by pass rush win rate. So I think they can get home and put pressure on dead arm Phillip Rivers.
So, Brett, then that's a case for the over. Let's make a case for the under in this thing, sitting, let's say if you wanted to play over it at MGM 51.5. A case for the under, I think one of the deals is, look, both of these guys aren't necessarily turnover-prone quarterbacks. So we're not going to be dealing with short fields. We're not going to be dealing with strip sacks. We're not going to be dealing with pick sixes, more likely than not, which obviously helps us get to overs a ton. And whenever we do look at, how these offenses function, I mean, I think the Colts, first and foremost, would like to, ride Jonathan Taylor as much as humanly possible if that does happen to be the best, start to work for them early in the game. So, if we were looking towards an under, maybe that could be a path to how we get to the under in this thing. It's just the fact that, short turnovers with short fields and pick sixes and strip sacks that, we look for with guys with some of these guys are a little bit more willy-nilly with the ball and stuff, aren't necessarily, in this game. And then also, I think that the Colts' best path to victory might be trying to just run the ball down the Bills' throat.
Yeah, you just laid it out. I mean, I think that is the path to the under. I think if you like the Colts here, you have to like the under too, because if they do end up in positive game flow and they're in the lead early, that's going to be what they want to do, is pound the ball with Jonathan Taylor 25 plus times into this Bills run defense, which has been the leakiest part of the defense all season long. They're healthier now, especially in the middle of the field now that Matt Milano is back, but this is still for years has been a defense that you can run on, and they also might want to do that to keep this Bills offense off the field. That was the blueprint that the Chiefs showed earlier in the year when they just ran the ball with Clyde 25 or 26 times, and the Bills just couldn't get into a flow on offense. I think that is the game plan that the Colts should have coming into this game. And if they're successful from the start, I don't see why this could go under 51.5 most of the time.
Yeah, and I like the way that you brought up the correlation here too, because as I'm looking at the player props, and so Jonathan Taylor's rush yardage is set at 73.5 over at DraftKings. So I'm kind of along the same line as you on that one, that if you like the Colts in this situation, especially if you like them to win outright, right? If you think the Colts win this game outright, if you think this is an upset, then you're probably leaning over 73.5 on Jonathan Taylor as far as rushing yards. If you think this is a Bills whitewash, and you think that this is they're just going to blow them out, and then the Colts are going to be playing from behind the whole game, then you're going to want to come in on the under on Jonathan Taylor. He's the only guy with a rushing prop over 37.5 yards. Zach Moss sitting at 37.5, Singletary at 29.5, Nyheim Hines at 23.5, and then Josh Allen is at 25.5. So whenever you kind of look at those rushing totals, would you kind of agree with that analysis? It's kind of like how you figure the game is going to go, who you think is going to win should also dictate how you bet these props.
Absolutely. I always correlate props with the script that I foresee happening more often than not. I think that's the way you have to attack props if you want to correlate with an over under or a spread. Yeah.
Brad, I mean, any thought at all on the passing prop for Josh Allen is set at basically 300 yards, 299.5. That is obviously 300-yard passing prop is quite a lot, but we're saying, hey, look, this is one of the most prolific passing offenses in the NFL, and we assume that their best path to victory is being able to pass all over this Colts defense. Any thoughts at all on 299.5?
The big games, a bit like the Patriots in recent years, when they know they need to win, they want to put the ball in the hands of their best player, and I think that's Josh Allen. And one passing prop I did like the look of was Allen over 37.5 attempts. I think they've gone over that in like 7 of the last 8 games. As I say, I think they just trust him now, and they know they're a passing team, and they're willing to chuck the ball. And I also don't think they'll stop throwing the ball even if they're up. Kind of saw last week against the Dolphins or against the Patriots. Before that, they're not trying to kill the game. They just keep throwing as many points as they can get. So I think over pass attempts is a nice look.
Last one for you, Brett. You've watched this team as much as anyone and studied. As far as the receiving yards go, if we assume that the success needs to come through the air, and we assume that the best path to victory for the Bills is to throw the ball, Steph Diggs is at 90 yards, and I understand that that's a lot, but when we look at a guy whose passing prop is 300 yards, and if we say that, okay, their best path to victory is passing the ball, he's getting it to his best receiver, what do you think about 90.5 on Steph Diggs?
I think Matt Eberflus is going to try to take Steph Diggs away as much as possible in this game. I trust this guy to put together a game plan as well as anybody really on the defensive side of the ball. So I would probably lean under. I think he's going to try to force Josh Allen to use his other receivers to win this football game. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at this. Obviously, all it's going to take is maybe 2 plays for Diggs to hit that over. But
right.
I think the Colts are going to really focus on Steph Diggs in this game and try to force these other guys to beat him.
All right, so let's wrap this game up with either plays we have or plays we are looking at or any sort of leans. Brett, I'll start with you.
I am going to wait and see if I can get the Colts at +7. That would be my play. I just think the Bills are just too trendy right now. I feel like this line is a little inflated, and the Colts, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if the Colts just win this football game. I think they have offensively, they're strong enough in the run game to kind of take the air out of this Bills offense and kind of stun everybody. So that would be my play, is Colts +7, maybe a money line bet there too, kind of a life hedge, because I obviously don't want to see that happen. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up being a 3-point game.
Yeah, I was about to say, maybe us asking how this is going to go and asking you is probably a bad thing, because you're always going to try to lean towards the bad. Brad, what do you have in your account? What are you looking at, and everything with this one?
I have the first quarter over 10. I have the first half over 24.5. I've got some Bills minus 6.5. And the last one I would look at would be Bills in play when the Colts script runs out, probably midway through the second quarter. If you can get Bills close to even money if they're behind, I like that as well.
I have it's going to come as no surprise to anyone. I have the Bills and a teaser leg paired up with another game a little bit later, taking this down to basically a pick 'em. I do believe they win this game, but I'm mildly nervous about how it plays out. I'd be much more confident should Cole Beasley be able to go in this one. So in the account right now is Bills on a teaser leg. The other thing I'm going to be watching is that Cole Beasley news as to whether he goes or whether he doesn't. If he does not go, I'm going to be taking overs on either Gabriel Davis or John Brown receiving yards, depending on what those numbers are. If he does go, I'll be looking to take an under specifically on John Brown receiving yards because I imagine they'll be a little bit inflated. And so I'll be specifically looking at unders on that. So a couple of prop bets that do hinge on what Cole Beasley is going to be able to do. We should know something Friday night that tends to leak. These people, these insiders get these information. So be sure and take a look at your curated Twitter list, which you should have by now. And if not, I'll try and help out. Brad will try to help out. Brad will try and help out with any information that comes out with these games.